I love camping. I've done it all my life growing up with my mother, father and two brothers. I can honestly say it was some of the best memories I have growing up. But I'm never going camping again for the rest of my life. My name is Amy. I'm 17 years old, female of course. I don't want to say exactly where I come from, but I will say I live in the States, a state known for its wilderness and forest spreading miles across the whole state. I live with my mother, father and two brothers in a nice little house in the centre of a tiny little town that we live in. I love my house and family and my neighbourhood. I've gone camping for as long as I can remember and like I said have nothing but great memories about it. Until now. It was around a week into the summer holidays and I had 5 more weeks of nothing planned. I got together with a few of my friends. There was me, Michael, who I had a crush on because he was amazingly gorgeous and British. Ryan, who was 17 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, really tall with braces. Next was Chad, who was also 17, brown hair, blue eyes. He loved to wear track pants everywhere, even in the boiling summer. I never understood why. Next up was Becky, one of my old friends, again 17 years old, little skinny thing with jet black hair that fell all the way down to her waist. Then there was Annie, who was the youngest out of the group. She was average height, brown hair, that she always braided into dreadlocks just for a laugh. Next up was Cassie, who I invited as a last resort. I don't know her that well, but Cassie is of course short for Cassandra, but she hates anyone calling her that, which is strange because Cassandra is a really nice name. And finally, the second youngest was Lindsay, who was very quiet, weirdly quiet at times. She didn't really say much to anyone, but she was nice. So I suggested that we all go camping, to which we all agreed almost instantly with no answer from Lindsay of course, but after asking her personally she nodded. We were all ready to go when Michael called me the morning that we were leaving to drop the bombshell that his parents wouldn't let him go, which really annoyed me, but what can you do? After begging my parents to let me go, they eventually caved, and when I got together with my friends the day before the trip I learned that I wasn't the only one. For example, Annie's parents made her do chores before she could go, and others had similar stories, but we all got the clear to go, so we were very excited. We spent the next few days gathering all the supplies we would need, and I was looking forward to the trip, and I know we all was. The excitement as we walked through the aisles of the local stalls with cart, throwing things in the cart that we think we would need for the 2 weeks to come. We had enough food for us for 2 weeks, same as water, and we had tents, sleeping bags, marshmallows obviously, beers that Chad had managed to get his older cousin to buy for us. We all had one standard issue hunting knife that Ryan's dad gave to each of us as protection, and we all had to sit down as he dribbled on for 20 minutes about the safety regulations when having one, and that we needed to be mature young men and women when handling these knives, and to only take them out in emergencies. They're not a toy, you know. We all boredly agreed, just trying to rush this little board meeting as soon as we could. I do need to say that Ryan's father was a police officer and only agreed for Ryan and the rest of us to go camping if he chose the campsite himself. So, the day of the camping trip, and we are all so excited. We woke up at 4 AM after all sleeping at my house the night before so we could all get up and go together. I was woken by the familiar sound of my front doorbell, followed by the pathetic barks of my little Jack Russell Maisie. It was Ryan's dad. I opened the door, half asleep in my Dalmatian PJs, to a laugh, and about time, I've been out here for 5 minutes, from Ryan's dad standing at the front door in his police uniform. He let himself in and proceeded to wake up all my friends with a loud, "Put your hands up, this is the police!" With everyone jumping in their sleepy state with fear on their faces, I laughed with Ryan's dad and was met with a swiftly thrown pillow to the face by Cassie. We started to pack all our things into my dad's Jeep, and Ryan's dad making sure that we had everything we needed, and we started our 20-mile car journey to the chosen campsite from Ryan's dad. The drive was really nice. We had all awoken at this point and was all really excited to get going, with us all laughing and joking and saying what we were going to do on the camping trip. The longer the drive got, the more lost we came in the forest. Trees everywhere and no signs of life apart from the occasional bird or rabbit. It was beautiful, and a shame that I'm never going to do it again. When I think about what the camping trip should have been, then I do actually want to go back, but as you'll be listening to this, you'll slowly realise and see why I'm never going camping again. So we got to the campsite and began to unpack when I saw Ryan's dad pull him to one side and privately hand him a walkie-talkie. I could just about make out what he said to Ryan. "You know how I feel about this trip, Ryan. I'm trusting you here, okay?" Amos replied with a, "I understand, Dad. I won't let you down." As they returned back to the group and we had everything on the branch and leaf covered forest floor, Ryan's dad said to us all, "So, have fun, good luck, and don't venture too far into the woods. I heard the forest killer ain't such a nice guy." And he smiled with one of those pirate side face smiles. We all chuckled and Annie said, "That ain't true, right?" Being swiftly answered by a, "Would I lie to you, Annie?" by Ryan's dad, to which we all laughed and chuckled. He got into the truck and left, and we were met with the cold morning air and bird calls as we coughed from the dust trails from that old tired truck that I hate. We started to put up our tents, and after 45 minutes everyone's was completed. We cracked open the supplies and shared them out and put our own shares in our respective tents, and off we went on a hike through the forest. I know Ryan's dad told us not to, but well, he wasn't here anymore and we wanted to explore. After walking through the forest together for around an hour, we decided to head back, and when we got back we started getting ready for the lake that we knew was nearby because we scouted it the week before. All the girls had their own little special bikinis that we bought the day before, and the guys have all bought new shorts. So after about 10 minutes we were ready to rock and roll. We were all ready to go, and we all went to the nearby lake and at the same time all jumped in. It was great fun and we had a blast playing all kinds of games like volleyball and things like that. It was around 1 PM at this point and it was very hot, so we all decided to have a little sunbathe next to the lake, with Chad and Ryan refusing and stayed in the lake with Cassie playing around. Lying there with the hot sun on my face next to my best friend, listening to the faint calls of birds, was really the most happy and peaceful I've been in a very long time. Sadly, this didn't last for too long as I woke up from nodding off to find only Becky next to me also asleep. I woke her and we walked back to the camp to find our friends laughing and telling stories about their friends and family members who have camped nearby and the things that they got up to. Night came too fast and it was around 9 PM at this point. We were all sitting on our own little camp chairs around a dimly lit feeble attempt at a fire by Chad, but we sat around telling scary stories anyway, as you do. Very cliche, I know, but oh well. So, Lindsay was halfway through telling her first story when we all went silent to a sound. It sounded strange, like whistling coming from the woods. We all got a little bit freaked out and decided to go into our tents and zip up for the night. Next thing I know, I'm being awoken by the hot sun on my face peering through the tent, which I was glad about. And when I emerged from my tent, only Ryan and Lindsay were awake and still sitting around the barely lit fire talking about the night before, saying, "It was freaky, I couldn't really sleep, what about you?" I walked out and greeted them just to be ignored as they carried on talking as I sat down and said, "So, what's for breakfast?" To them just laughing. Chad was the last to wake up as I knew he was drinking beer and was hungover from the night before. He waddled out of the tent around 10 AM with a moan from a pain from his head, and then putting on the famous Ray-Ban shades to block out the day and us from exacerbating his headache. Nothing creepy happened for the next few nights, and we had a blast, but around the fourth night we heard the same noises again, only this time it was a little bit louder and more distinct. At this time we all just listened in silence for what seemed about an hour, but the silence was broken at one point by Ryan saying, "I'm going to check it out," as he was walking towards the sounds. Before we even had a chance to say no, he disappeared into the woods along with his knife. He must have felt threatened to actually get his knife out, but he did. Chad soon followed him with a, "Hey man, wait up!" And before we knew it, it was just the girls sitting around the fire, which was a lot bigger this time, with our little burnt marshmallows still in hand and starting to get really scared now. I could tell they were scared even though I didn't even look at them or hear them. We were all just staring in silence at the spot where the boys had wandered into the forest. When around 30 minutes went by of us getting increasingly worried, they emerged with looks of excitement on their face and said, "You have to come and see what we've just found." After debating to go, we did decide that we would all go together. Using our little pocket flashlights, we followed the boys and were all shocked to find a huge, old, rusty house in the middle of the woods. It looked very normal, like it would be a really nice house once, but now stood in the last moments of its life with windows boarded up and graffiti everywhere. We walked closer and were stopped by Lindsay saying, "There is no chance in hell we are going in." And the boys laughed, but soon stifled their laughs when they saw that all of us girls felt the same way. There was not a chance in hell I was going into that house, especially not at night. We headed back for camp and that was the end of it. The next morning we all decided to go and explore the house under the safety of daylight, and we assumed that's where the sound was coming from that we've been hearing the past few nights, as we heard it very clear as we went back to our tents last night. We were starting to get used to it in a weird way. We entered the house and I almost screamed when I entered. I assumed what was the living room to find I counted 6 lifeless human shaped figures lying around the room in various positions. We were all just silent. I've never stood so still in all my life. We stood there in the huge oak doorway for what seemed a lifetime, and I could see that they weren't dead, they were sleeping. There was 4 children and 2 adults. They were very clearly homeless, or at least squatting, from the look of them and the smell of them. They were filthy and wearing rags covering their whole body, with different shades of brown covering their faces and body, but some of their hair was clearly visible, and I knew they probably didn't even know what a shower was. At that moment I saw that the biggest figure lying on the ground had clearly a shotgun tucked between his arms, and 3 of us ran out. I couldn't say which 3 ran out because I didn't take my eyes off that gun. It was huge. I looked and saw they all had weapons of some kind. Knives, hammers, bats and axes. We all slowly and silently walked backwards out of the doorway and out the front door, with tears starting to stream down my face at this point. As soon as they were out of sight, we all ran as fast as our legs could carry us to the camp, and were all hysterical when we got back there to find that all of our supplies were gone and the only things left were the bones of our camp. Ripped tents and clothes scattered and torn throughout the camp. Ryan screamed, "Shit!" when he looked in his tent and said that my walkie-talkie's gone, so's my food. The rest of us didn't even bother looking in our own respective tents. We knew all our things were gone. I just sat on the ground and broke down into tears, with a reassuring hand on my back from Lindsay saying, "We'll get home, Amy, you'll see, just calm down." So, over the course of the remaining days in that godforsaken camp, we lost Chad, Cassie and Becky. I'm almost certain they're dead. We managed to run and find a little road that led to a small town, and we called the police. After about a week later, the police come out to my house and told us the situation. "We haven't found your 3 friends yet, but the search is still going. As for the people in the forest, we've been trying to track them down for some time now. They live in the forest and it's not sure for how long they've been there. They terrorise anyone who goes into the forest and are the lead suspects in 17 missing persons cases." I just sat there in tears with my mother holding me as we listened to the police officer effortlessly talk about how people have gone missing from the forest, and some have been found mutilated, and they believe it's this family whose numbers are unknown, but is thought to be around 10 family members ranging from the ages of 13 up to 60 years old. They are known as the family in the woods, and they still haven't been captured. I don't want to talk about the specifics of what happened on that camping trip because, if I'm honest, I don't remember most of it through blind fear. But I do know this: I'm never, ever, ever going into the woods again. Who knew I'd end up in here, huh? To which he agreed and said, "We will get her soon, don't worry." And that will be the end of it. Around 2 weeks later, I saw her less and less, around 4 times a week instead of every day. So, it was a Tuesday. Everything normal, and I didn't see her at all that day. I finished my shift, went home as the sun was rising. I got home, had a shower, got into bed for a nap. I was asleep pretty much straight